I'm not gonna lie. I didn't even realize that it was April 1st already, and when I saw all the memes, everybody posting about trades that didn't happen and all this other stuff, I was like, oh, right, it's April Fools. And I, unfortunately, did not have anything planned for the day, so yeah, we're just sticking to our normal schedule here. I'm sure some of y'all would have liked to have seen some sort of a funny meme or a joke posted today, but yeah, I kinda forgot, so I guess you'll have to wait till next year if you want some sort of a meme, but either way, this video is not going to go over some sort of an April Fool's joke. Nah, this is real. This is hard set in reality with the numbers, and it's intriguing because this entire thing goes against what a lot of people thought would have been the case when this trade was made back in July of 2022. Let's head over to a trade made between the Ottawa Senators and the Minnesota Wild, and just go over the revisionist history, how everybody's talking about it now, what both of these players, the main players that is, are doing with their respective teams, and just how exactly this differs from the expectations. We're talking about the Ottawa Senators and Minnesota Wild Cam Talbot Gustavsson trade. And we made a video about this and talking about the summer of Dorian and how he was doing all these great things. He got DeBrincat, he got Giroux, he got Cam Talbot, he got rid of Matt Murray, and this was seen as a pretty good set of transactions back in that time frame. The trade here that we're talking about was 1-for-1. Cam Talbot was sent from Minnesota to the Ottawa Senators, and in return, the Wild received Filip Gustavsson. Now, the reason this was seen as a big deal was because last season, Cam Talbot playing for the Minnesota Wild had a .911 save percentage. He also had a .915 save percentage the prior year. He was seen as a pretty good starting goaltender, and for an Ottawa Senators team that had Matt Murray on their squad for the past little while, they needed goaltending. Unfortunately, Murray was just not cut out to be the guy that Sens fans thought he would be. Murray was sent over to Toronto. Kyle Dubas loves his Sault Ste. Marie Greyhound, so it was a pretty good fit. And the Senators, instead of relying on Gustavsson to take the next step, they brought Talbot in because they thought he could be that guy. 35 years old, he's still a pretty big dude. He signed till the end of this season making $3.6 million a year. And even though you had yourselves a team that was, on paper at least, built for success in the short term, with Jimmy Stu and Brady still here, and then of course the new acquisitions in Giroux and DeBrincat, Cam Talbot was supposed to be the icing on the cake, plus the idea that you had these guys in college that were coming out and potentially doing their thing too. You had Jake Sanderson and Bernard Docker as guys in the pipeline that could make an impact in this season's worth of play. But unfortunately for the Ottawa Senators, if you look at the NHL standings, they are not in the playoffs right now. They are just outside the wild card. Pittsburgh has 84 points. Ottawa has 79 points. So it's a pretty tight race for that last spot. Florida is right behind Pittsburgh too, and Pittsburgh has a game in hand over the Panthers. So it's going to be cool to see how everything goes out the next few days. But Ottawa is not in that conversation. Meanwhile, if you go over to the opposite side of this trade, when Cam Talbot was sent over to Ottawa, the guy coming back was Filip Gustavsson. Gustavsson, up to this point, was a pretty up-and-coming goaltender. He's 24 years old, not as big as Cam Talbot, and he's also signed to the end of this season on his ELC, making $700K. But last season, playing for the Ottawa Senators and the Belleville Senators, Gustavsson wasn't particularly amazing. 18 games played with the NHL's Ottawa team, .892 save percentage, a .355 goals against. Now, to Gustavsson's credit, he was good with the Belleville Senators, 20 games played, a .915 save percentage, and a much better goals against, but realistically, Gustavsson was more just a prospect in the pipeline, doing whatever it is that he's trying to do to stay in the NHL, and the Minnesota Wild thought that, hey, Cam Talbot is getting older, sure he was good last year, but we see potential in this Gustavsson guy, so we're going to take a flyer on him. Last year, we said that the trade was a huge Ottawa win, not because Filip Gustavsson was particularly bad, but because the Ottawa Senators were just straight up improving their situation. Matt Murray is out, and Cam Talbot is in. Talbot was a lot better than Murray the past few years. There's a lot of leadership and stability you have with Talbot as your goaltender, but once the season began, things started to take a rocky turn because Talbot this year did not really have the best of health. He was in and out of the lineup with injuries, and he was taking some extra time to recover from things, which isn't his fault, but it's just the unfortunate turn of events that happened to take place at the start of the year. And now if you take a look at where things are, statistically, Cam Talbot has played 33 games for the Ottawa Senators in 2022-2023, and his save percentage is at a .902. He has had a significantly worse year compared to how he was playing in Minnesota. Now, you could chalk this up and say, oh wow, Cam Talbot really fell off a cliff here. He's really not as good as he was last year. Who would have thought? But the funny part is, when you take a look at Filip Gustavsson and you acknowledge what he's been doing alongside of Marc-Andre Fleury for a Minnesota Wild team that is pretty much focused more so on defense than anything, Filip Gustavsson has 35 games played this year. He's got a .201 goals against and a .933 save percentage. That's incredible. Go over to the NHL in its entirety and you'll see that Gustavsson is second in the league in save percentage. Oh boy, what did you do, Ottawa? Go over to goals against average and you'll see that Gustavsson is still second in the league. This is literally the second best goalie the NHL has this season, just behind Linus Ullmark, who has been out of this world phenomenal. Gustavsson is playing out of his mind right now. And the thing is, with the Minnesota Wild doing as well as they've been doing, they're in the playoff race right now in that Central Division, and it's pretty good where they're standing. I mean, they are in the first overall spot in that Central Division, playing off against one of the wildcard teams most likely, depending on whether or not Dallas or Colorado catches up. The Minnesota Wild have been so much better with this player in Gustavsson than they had been with Cam Talbot in the past. Now, of course, you could chalk it up to external factors, the offense, the defense, the strategies, the coaching, it's whatever, but just from a goaltending point of view, yeah, no, this team is doing a lot better now than they had been last year, and it's not even close. It's kind of funny because last year, when you had seen this trade be made, you saw a lot of people saying, okay, well, Gustavsson is a prospect, and that's it. Like, he was an AHL caliber guy last year. He was a sub-900 goaltender in the NHL last year. How in the heck does a guy go from that to what he's doing right now, where he's the second best goalie in the league in 30 games played in one season? That's crazy. Filip Gustavsson has had an incredible explosion of talent the past little while, and sure, the Minnesota Wild are a much better defensive team than the Ottawa Senators are. I'm not going to go out there and dispute that. It's definitely a contributing factor when looking at the numbers, how Cam Talbot has had a poorer year than everybody expected he would, and how Gustavsson has had a better year. But I feel like the magnitude of differentiation between the talent of defensive capability for both of these teams isn't really enough to fully justify the improvements that Gustavsson has made to his game. It's to a point now where I'm seeing a lot of Senators fans saying, man, that guy's playing pretty well. Almost too well. What the hell happened that he was not doing that well over here? How? And it's been kind of a cool conversation to be bringing up, especially since this trade is only 1 year old. Like, dude, this normally never happens after the span of 1 year. The guy's an NHL, AHL tweener, and now he's the second best player in the league behind Ullmark? Like, dude, that's wild. Ha, pun included. Haha, yeah, no, that's wild. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about this trade 1 year later, how things stand, and what your expectations were when the trade was made. Did you see some sort of a revival like Filip Gustavsson has had? Did you see Cam Talbot dropping off in the way that he has? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Juraj, and bye.